Twilight the Terrible by Arcade Striker JK5 Chapter 1. She was at the edge of consciousness, her sight first returning, then hear, smell, taste, touch in sequence. Her sense of magic flared to life as he felt the stars moving, allowing to twist open her dimensional prison, exactly as she had set it in motion 1,000 years ago. The spell holding her prisoner in the moon shattered, freeing the captive. The prisoner flew forth, wings spread out from her body, ethereal mane and tail streaming behind her. Nightmare Moon fell from her prison, descending to her home to take her rightful place as Equestria's ruler. Nightmare Moon's reverie shattered as the blighted land below grabbed her attention. The trees with barely any leaves, and the fields little more than stretches of dirt. Her glowing eyes widened as she beheld a sick land, not yet dying, but not well. "What is the meaning of this?" she bellowed, flying over farms with stunted crops. "This is the summer sun celebration, is it not?" The Alcorn paused in mid-flight and looked around. Kicking at the air, she focused her attention on the sky. Most of it was dark, but the edge of the horizon was a silver of brilliant orange. The sun, her sister's domain, hung low in the sky, the moon over it in an eclipse. No stars shone in the sky. There was nothing but a deep, endless expanse of inky blue. Tyrant Moon's lips curled back in a sneer. "So, my dear sister, unable to control both the sun and moon? I knew that without me, Equestria would fall into disarray!" She leaned forward, and her horn glowed a deep blue as she telekinetically latched onto the moon and willed it to move. Nothing happened. The Princess of the Night grunted, and her wings flapped. She flew back as she focused all her might on the moon, her domain, her former prison, and now object of her will. Move! Move! The moon remained in place, hanging over the sun and casting Equestria in perpetual shadow. Nightmare Moon snorted, lightning flashing from her nostrils. She reached out, sensing the powerful magic holding the moon in place. She traced its path, all the way to Canterlot. She twisted around, angling towards the former fortress. "So, my enemy takes residence in the ancient fortress of the Mages? Very well. I shall smite thee and take my rightful place as the ruler of the night!" Fancy Pants, Prime Minister of Equestria, backed away from the throne as the current ruler glared down. But, your majesty," he began, his monocle sitting slightly in his telekinetic grasp. "It's not that anybody wants to celebrate. It's just that—" His voice trailed off as he unconsciously glanced to a window and the eternal dusk outside. "With crops barely enough to sustain the population, they just can't!" He hung his head and sighed, tensing for the 10,000th time. The throne's occupant, a purple unicorn filly, half Fancy Pants size, glared down at him with stark white eyes. "But why?" Twilight Sparkle demanded, horn ablaze with a brilliant pillar, a pillar of energy. She hopped off the throne and stalked up to Fancy Pants. Twilight snorted, a white cloud coming out of her nostrils. "All I want is for everybody to be happy, and I'm trying my best with the sun." She followed Fancy Pants' gaze out the window, where the sun was hanging in place. "I almost got it, too. I think it twisted today." She clapped her front hose together. "Soon. I'll fix everything. Don't worry." Fancy Pants clamped down his lips and merely nodded. "As you say." Twilight's tongue suddenly shot around, eyes wide. "What is this? I feel something. No, someone. Such power, too." Her horn's energy changed slightly, glowing from pure white to gaining tinges of purple to it. She walked to the window, overlooking the sun's position. Her eyes narrowed the slightest fraction before widening again. After a few minutes, she looked back to Fancy Pants. "Send out the Royal Guard and escort formation, but tell them if anyone attacks, I'll be very angry. Got it?" Fancy Pants nodded and dropped down to one foreleg, then rose back up to all fours and trotted out. Twilight spun around, walked behind the throne to a door hidden behind it and opened it. She entered a small, dimly lit room and walked up to a bed, her horn blazing, taking away some of the shadows and casting others with sharp angles and lines. "Someone's coming," she said to Princess Celestia, her voice dropping as low as he could. "But don't worry, Princess. I'll make sure that I don't mess anything up." Princess Celestia stirred, her normally resplendent coat all but faded into dullness. Her matted wings fluttered slightly. Princess Celestia's head rose, and her blurry eyes glowed in focus for a moment. "No," she drawled out. "Please, Twilight. I can help you, but you need—" "Help? Why would I need help?" she said, her right eye twitching ever so slightly. She reached out with her foreleg and patted Celestia on her forehead, right below the little nub of a horn. "Don't worry. I almost made the sun move today. Isn't that great?" She rose back to all four hosts. "Don't worry, Princess. As soon as I deal with whoever's messing with the moon, I'll get right back face to face with the sun. You'll see." She turned and trotted out of the room, eyes flashing widely. Celestia's eyes focused on Twilight as she left. She heaved her head up, but a wave of dizziness hit her, sending her crashing once more to her bed. She groaned slightly as a presence made herself known to her, one not felt in 1,000 years. Tears streamed from her eyes as she felt the presence approach. "Luna, run!" Nightmare Moon circled over Canterlot, glowing eyes focused on the cracked minarets, faded white paint, and the general state of decay. A few ponies wandered the streets, bundled up in thick clothing that spoke more of functionality than form. A small gasp escaped her lips as she beheld a hard, grotesquely misshapen purple dragon sitting in an open lot. A Pegasus hovered near its gaping maw, dumping a few stones down its gullet. Tightness gripped Nightmare Moon's chest as she found herself growing hot. "Sister, I knew you were soft, but never stupid! Has the Griffin Empire invaded?" She suddenly paused in midair. "Is this Discord?" She abruptly dove, sending a few ponies galloping away in fright as she narrowed her eyes, casting her senses out. The trail led to a large field of weathered grass, little tufts of bushes, and a few scattered statues in various states of disrepair. One statue, a mismatched conglomeration of animal parts, stood out simply by virtue of having no cracks on its surface. Nightmare Moon touched down in front of the prison of the God of Chaos and walked up to it, horn glowing. She paced in front of the frozen Draconquest for a few minutes. "Still frozen, beast. My sister and I did well with your sealing." Wing beats stirring the air caught her attention, and her head whipped around. "Who dares approach me?" A dozen white-coated Pegasi, each one clad in the gold armor of the Royal Guard, touched down and tried to stop in front of the Alicorn. The one on point dipped his head. "Greetings from the interim caretaker of Equestria," he said, his voice dipping low. Nightmare Moon regarded him, eyes narrowing and lip curling back. "Interim caretaker? Celestia's on the throne! What could have overthrown her?" She stalked up to the Pegasus, mane flaring out and lightning crackling with each stroke of her hose, leaving scorch marks on the dead grass. She leaned her head down, boring into the Pegasus' eyes with her own white orbs. "Speak quickly, for it may be the last time you do so." The Pegasus swallowed, but held his ground. "There was an incident 7 years ago. I cannot say more." Sweat beaded on his brow. He took a breath and continued speaking as he felt Nightmare Moon's penetrating gaze. "Please, I beg you, if you must kill me, but spare my squadron." His eyes darted away, and he stepped back, head hanging. It was a span of heartbeats before Nightmare Moon sneered. "You have courage and honor. Not the best thing to have, but it is inside your heart. Tell me, what is your name?" The Pegasus looked up. "Spanish Steel." He clicked his toes together and straightened his body. "Sergeant of the Lord of God." Spanish Steel regarded her with wary eyes. "But if I may, who are you?" Nightmare Moon snored. She held up a foreleg and pointed up to the moon, hanging over the sun. "Tell me, when you were a colt, did you ever hear the mare of the moon, the nightmare sealed away?" She bared her teeth and chuckled, Spanish Steel recoiling slightly. "That was me. And now, after 1,000 years, I have returned to take back my throne!" She spread her wings, and thunder crashed in the clear skies. "Whether it is my sister or this caretaker, it matters not. I shall not be denied my destiny a second time." Spanish Steel dropped to one foreleg, the rest of his squadron following suit. "Then, as per orders, we shall escort you to the royal palace," he said before standing up. Nightmare Moon nodded to him as he strode forward, the Pegasi breaking rank and reforming around her. Good. She intoned, looking into the sky and spread her wings, testing her legs before springing into the air, leaving 4 small craters on the ground as she and the squadron took off for the best-maintained building in Canterlot. Twilight paced about the throne room, empty save for herself. Her head swung back and forth, energy around her horn flashing with every step of her hoods. I need the fire reports, she bellowed. If I read them, I can understand them. If I understand them, maybe I can figure out how to grow more food. She stopped mid-stride, teeth grinding. Give me Blue Blood, on the devil! No, not him. Shining armor? Her head whipped around. Shining armor, where are you? The doors at the front of the room suddenly bulged, a split second before disintegrating into a shower of splinters and chunks of metal. Nightmare Moon strode in, mane and tail flaring out behind her. Behold your ruler! She bellowed, eyes focused on Twilight, and her jaw dropped as she saw the cone of magical energy around the young filly's horn. By the herd, what is... Her voice trailed off. That power. I would know it even if I was locked in the moon for 10,000 years. She snorted and dragged a hoof along the ground, digging at the tiles. You! What have you done with my sister? Twilight stopped her pacing and looked at Nightmare Moon, then to the door frame, and stiffly scared about. What the? Now I gotta get the door fixed too? As if I don't have enough on my plate with the sun. She suddenly focused her glowing eyes on Nightmare Moon. Wait, I know you. She gasped and staggered back, gazing around her horn, placing forth for a second before settling down. You're Nightmare Moon. I read about you in the archives of the Royal Library. A smile slowly crept across Nightmare Moon's face. Ah, so I am not completely forgotten. Good. She lowered her head, and horn lit up with magic, her smile failing away. What has happened to Celestia, foe? You wield her power with all the grace of a dragon. Twilight's jaw dropped. Hey! She started out. I'm doing the best I can here. She stalked forward, stopping a few feet from Nightmare Moon. Probably better than how you would. You want eternal night. I'm at least trying to fix things here. She glanced in the window and wandered over. I didn't mean to do it. This all happened and now the sun's broken. But I'm going to fix these for Princess Celestia. She whirled about to face Nightmare Moon once more. You'll see, Fancy Pants doesn't think I do it, and neither does his friend, Bluebird, I think. Didn't either, but I showed him. Nightmare snorted, sending forth billy steam from her nostrils. You have not answered my question, child. She strode forward, punching each word with a slam of steel-shod hooves on the floor. Where is my sister? Twilight's blank eyes stared back and hung her head, a black tear falling from her eye. She walked to the hidden door behind the throne. I didn't mean to. It just happened. Twilight writhed and twisted in a spear of white, all senses blocked by the hammering in her skull. A flash of light engulfed her parents, and they changed into plants. The instructors floated in midair, helpless under the unrestrained onslaught of power coursing through her. She spun about as a flash of light passed by her. Celestia appeared before her trembling form, mane whipping out behind her. She reached out to the young filly with a long foreleg, a smile on her face. Twilight's own foreleg shot out, and twin beams of energy engulfed from her hooves, striking and enveloping the princess into a misshapen blob. Celestia cried out, her horns suddenly shrinking, wings shedding feathers. Young one, stop this, please! All of Equestria shook. From the outer borders to Canterlot itself, the sun dipped low in the sky, stopping at the verge of the horizon. The sky dimmed, turning a deep blue as the air chilled, and the lone Pegasus filly returned to Cloudsdale, her cutie mark still shining on her flanks, blissfully unaware of what had just transpired. Nightmare Moon stood in the doorway, stunned silent. Her mane and tail had flattened out, hanging limply from Paul and Doc respectively. She took a step into that room that held Celestia's withered form. Sister, she whispered, voice numb and flat. Celestia's head lifted slightly, and a single eye opened. Luna, she groaned and panted, that accent seeming to drain her. I'm sorry. You had to see me like this. Her head fell back to the bed, and her torso heaved. Not her fault. Nightmare Moon was beside her bed in an instant. She raised a foreleg and pressed it against Celestia's right shoulder, shaking her. Celestia! Celestia! She cried out. Her head darted back and forth, and her eyes dimmed slightly. Her breathing quickened as they continued shaking and increasing tempo. Wake up! Wake up! It wasn't supposed to be like this! It was to be a battle between two eagles for my rightful vengeance! Sister, please! Twilight snarled. I'm sorry, she said, voice wavering. She entered the room. The sun stopped working, and I've been trying so hard to fix it, but nothing's worked, she groaned. I feel so bad about it, but I've been trying really hard to fix it. She tilted her head back and looked up at Nightmare Moon. I really have... A solid black beam of energy shot from Nightmare Moon's horn, striking Twilight directly on the chest and sending her hurtling back through a wall on the far side. The entire wall shuddered before collapsing into a large mound of concrete and rebar, sending out a large cloud of dust. The Alicorn emerged from Celestia's room, teeth bared and sharp. I surrender marrow from your bones! She screamed, the air reverberating. Spittle flew from her mouth as she walked forward. Tears flowed freely from her eyes. You have hurt my sister, the one being who might be my equal. You pathetic feeling, without even a cutie mark. She is a ruler of the undying sun, caretaker of Team Fatty, and my sister! You will pay for what you have! The mound of rubble suddenly exploded, sending debris flying in all directions. A shield of magic flowed from Nightmare Moon's horn, deflecting the incoming shrapnel from her. Her forelegs kicked at the door as Twilight floated out of the mound, unharmed. But how? What part of most powerful unicorn magic wielder do you not comprehend? Twilight snarled and moaned, her entire body twitching. I told you I'll fix it! She screeched. She held up her forelegs and a beam of energy emerged from each, intercepting a few feet away from the filly and striking Nightmare Moon's shield head-on. It washed over the barrier, engulfing it. Cracks quickly formed in the shield as it shattered, the magic fading away from the onslaught of power. Nightmare Moon quickly tried backwards, leaning her head forward. Her horn was completely covered in energy, and her wings beat as she poured every bit of energy she had into the shield. She suddenly lifted in the air, mere moments before it failed, barely dodging the blast of energy below her hooves. A sudden telekinetic strike slanted to Nightmare Moon's side, sending her peeling out the upper levels of the throne room. Her head spun in side aches from below. A voice echoed below, the thunderhead of a false tantrum. I can fix this. Don't you dare stop me from fixing this. I broke it, so it's my responsibility to fix what I did wrong. It's what Mom and Dad taught me! Nightmare Moon regained control of her movements, looked around, spotted the window and jumped through it. She sailed into the sky and turned around, even as Twilight floated up into the eternal dusk. Her eyes flashed and shot her hooves into the air, sending forth a staccato flurry of lightning bolts forth from her hooves, but they bent down on Twilight's upright form. Another telekinetic wave rippled out for Twilight's horn, but Nightmare Moon angled her body up and climbed through the air, managing to fly up and over it, only to be struck by another shot from Twilight's horn. The Alicorn tumbled through the air, wings spreading out as she slowed down, but a cough racked her body as she spat blood from her mouth. Her eyes darted about as she quickly located Twilight, even as the filly flew towards her. Nightmare Moon kicked at the air, swinging herself around as she shot off once more, eyes wide from a strangling sensation that clutched her chest and quickened her breath. Twilight fired off several more bolts from her horn and forelegs, each one narrowly missing Nightmare Moon, but still close enough to send her tumbling with the backwash. Get back here. You have to be punished for what you did. She leaned back before casting out, staring Nightmare Moon. Her right eye twist. You did some bad things, Nightmare Moon! Nightmare Moon blocked out Twilight's ranting as she kicked at the air, whinnying and snickering. Even with all her effort, she slowly slid back to Twilight. Her horn glowed and a thin beam of energy shot out into the sky. Her head twisted and turned as she was dragged down to the filly who had stolen her sister's power and sent Equestria to ruin. Her horn sliced straight down, tearing a hole in the sky. The crack, a thin slice of blackness in space, yawned open right before Nightmare Moon, distorting and rippling. Twilight gasped in shock as her telekinetic grip slackened, allowing Nightmare Moon to surge forward, kicking and flapping against the filly. As quickly as it had opened, the hole began closing, but she managed to enter the hole just as it closed. her ephemeral tail barely making it before it closed up. Twilight floated in the sky for a few moments, mouth open, eyes wide. A few groans came from her throat as she kicked the air. Heresy from her horn shooting up in the sky. "Get back here," she shouted. "That's not fair. You did a bad thing. You have to come back and fix it. You have to fix it!" Lightning crackled and howled as she continued her ungodly tantrum, tears falling from her eyes. After a few minutes, she turned around and flew back to Canterlot, landed near a dragon. She stopped down to her knees, still sobbing. "I'm trying my best. Why can't anybody see it?" She tried, crying down, after a large claw struck down her back. She raised her head and looked up at the dragon, sniffling. "Thanks, Spike." "Ooh, raise your hands! Who wants to see a darker, grittier version of I Have to Find a Way playing right now?" The bright blue sky cracked open. A thin line of black yawning opened, kicking up wind. Nightmare Moon tumbled out of the hole, corkscrewing through the sky. She spread her wings out to regain control, but she continued spiraling down to the ground, in the green grass and lush trees and open fields. "Where am I?" Her thoughts were interrupted as the ground rushed up to her. She slanted in the dirt, drinking the soil up as she continued tumbling and rolling across the hard, unyielding earth. Pain she never knew she could have sprung up every inch of her nigh immortal body as she continued, finally coming to a stop just outside a small town near a large forest. Nightmare Moon lifted her head up and blinked, but the entire world swam. Her eyes briefly gleamed before regaining their light. She grit her teeth together and concentrated, the sight of purple catching her attention. She smiled at the sight before her, even as dizzy returns. "Perhaps I am at the Tartarus. Goga, have you come to claim me?" She thought as the filly who had wielded the powers of a goddess, now all grown up, stared back at her. Then the world was swallowed up once more by blackness. Chapter 2. Twilight sighed as she floated a daisy sandwich up to her mouth and took a bite of it, savoring the flavor before swallowing. She drank in the birds chirping, the slight breeze on her coat, and the feel of the blanket beneath her feet as she sat outside Fluttershy's cottage with her 5 best friends and the dragon who was like a younger brother to her. Finally, she opened her eyes to find Rainbow Dash hovering about 2 inches from her nose. "Ah!" she cried out, falling back and dropping the sandwich. Dash played about the air, rubbing her hose together. "So, do you think they like my idea?" she asked, her grin so wide her muzzle almost split. "I mean, this has to be the best daring do fiction ever written!" Applejack rolled her eyes and rose from where she sat, near the picnic basket. "Honestly, Rainbow Dash, that yarn's about as interesting as a trip to the spa." She glanced at her side as Rarity rose from her couch. "And I ain't taking that back either," she said, smirking. Rarity rolled her eyes and looked at Dash as the Pegasus landed. "Honestly, Rainbow Dash, it's heavily padded, the accident's told rather than shown, and the new character assists you with a new main job." Dash hopped back to the air and cocked her head to the side. "And..." Silence permeated before Fluttershy called. "Well, maybe you could spend more time following daring as opposed to multicolored trot." She shrank slightly as everyone turned to focus their attention onto her. "Well, if that's all right with you, it is that big thing." She pasted the ground to her face, cheeks still turned scarlet. Dash shrugged and turned to Pinkie Pie, even as Pinkie stuffed a hoof full of cupcakes into her mouth. "Pinkie, what do you think?" The bigger pony's eyes went wide. Her mane and tail shook while her entire body bounced up and down on the blanket. "Twitch! Something biggs!" She suddenly leapt forward, legs outstretched as she tackled Dash to the ground, the pair rolling off the blanket. "Pinkie Pie! What the hey are you?" Dash was silenced as the sky above stretched, yawning open with a midnight blue flash of energy. A large splash shape tumbled out, pinwheeling around the sky, before crashing a dozen meters away. Twilight hopped to her host. "What in the wide world of Equestria?" She narrowed her eyes to the dark form. "We gotta check that out." Spike's eyes widened. "Twilight, are you nuts? We don't know what that thing is." Rarity nodded as she hopped off her couch. "I agree with Spike, Twilight. Sometimes discretion is the better part of..." Dash extricated herself out of Pinkie's grasp and flew over the air. "I'm on it!" she said, tossing off a salute before flying off, a multicolored contrail streaming from behind. Fluttershy gasped, "Dash, wake up! It could be dangerous!" The Pegasus swallowed before jumping into the air, flying off after her oldest friend. She paused at the edge of the blanket and looked back, a stern expression on her face. What are you waiting for? She waved to Four like, our friend needs help. Spike hopped onto Twilight's back, and she, Pinkie Pie, Applejack, and Rarity galloped off, quickly crossing the distance to the huddled form on the ground. Twilight stalled to a halt as the form took shape into a familiar alicorn. No, it can't be, she gasped as she beheld the form of Nightmare Moon. Applejack shook her head. I can't be, she shouted. We just saw her a couple of days ago in Wattail Woods. She was happy and smiling. Nix, is that you? Nightmare Moon's head suddenly rose as she opened her eyes and as everyone looked up. The glow there faded for a second, revealing confusion. She looked around, but her head wobbled as she slumped back into unconsciousness. Daz hovered over her, hose near her mouth. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh! She looked around. Twilight, did Princess Celestia send any letters I don't know about Luna going nuts again? Twilight shook her head. No, she didn't, she said through gritted teeth. Her horn glowed as she paced around Nightmare Moon's form. She's alive, but weak. She stopped her pacing in front of Nightmare Moon's cutie mark. I'm sensing magic here. It seems familiar, but... She shook her head. I don't know what to make of it. Spike hopped off her back and crept forward, right into Nightmare Moon's head. He waved a hand in front of her face and let out a slow whistle. Whatever did this to her pet one heck of a punch. He patted himself down and grumbled. Twilight, I let the quill and scrolls back at the picnic. Applejack glanced at Twilight and cocked her eyebrow. You brought a quill and scrolls to a picnic? Twilight looked right back at Applejack. Yeah, why? Applejack shrugged. No reason. Twilight rolled her eyes before closing them. Her horn glowed for a second. A second flying quill and scroll appeared in bursts of violet light. The scroll unraveled, and the quill began writing. Dear Princess Celestia, Twilight dictated, there's an emergency here near Fluttershy's cottage, on the edge of Everfree Forest. It concerns your sister. Please hurry here as soon as possible. Signed, Twilight Sparkle. She rolled the scroll back up and floated it over to Spike. The young dragon grabbed it out of midair and held it up. He took a deep breath, and a stream of green, enchanted flame erupted from his mouth, incinerating the scroll and sending it the acid smoke up and away. He began sliding away from the alicorn. Okay, now what? He chuckled nervously and scratched his belly. I mean, if she wakes up and she's angry. Without the elements of harmony, what do we do? Death smirked and kicked the air. Come on, Spike. We can take out Nightmare Moon, no problem. She circled the air in the alicorn. Together, nothing can stop us. Elements or no. Applejack looked up at Das. You're kidding, right? Das shrugged. Got me, but I won't go down with a fight, or let her hurt my friends. The sun suddenly brightened, turning the sky a brilliant white as it contracted, forming into the regal form of Celestia, and slowly descended to the ground. Das and Fluttershy landed as everyone present quickly bowed their heads. Celestia looked him over before focusing on the unmoving form of Nightmare Moon. Her brow winkled as she watched forward. This is impossible, she said, breath quickening with every step she took. Twilight trotted over to her side and looked up at Celestia. Believe me, Princess. I don't want to believe it either, but something's happening. She stopped talking as shadows suddenly darkened the immediate area, and a chill wind blew in. What the hey? She said, head darting about. The shadows built up on themselves, rolling on top of each other and forming into the silhouette of a pony, while the Ascidian forms shined all light. Within seconds, Princess Luna stood by her elder sister, a dark counterpart to the goddess of the day. She looked down at Nightmare Moon and glanced at Das and Pinkie. Before we proceed any further, a question comes to mind. She held up a foreleg and jabbed it towards each of them. Rainbow Das! Pinkie Pie! She spoke. Yeah, rattling. Is this a prank? Das blinked. Her mouth hung open. Seconds passed before she shook her head. What? No way! She tried over to Pinkie Pie and leaned in close. This isn't what we forgot about, right? Pinkie scratched her head. Nope! She finally declared. She bounced over to Nightmare Moon and leaned in close. Pranks are supposed to be fun for every pony. It just wouldn't be fun for Princess Luna or Celestia. She looked up at the alicorn, expressed his grin. Right? Luna nodded. It did not, Pinkie Pie. Her eyes narrowed. Magic flared from her horn and armor hose stuck in the ground. Be warned! She stirs! The ponies and Spike all backed up a few steps, as Nightmare Moon's head slowly lifted and she opened her eyes. in my head. She suddenly focused on Celestia and Luna standing over her. Her eyes flashed, turning bright white. Impossible! She tucked down to her hose and pointing a foreleg at Celestia. You were laid low by the Tyrant Filly, sucked dry of all but the bitterest dregs of your power. Her mouth twitched, slowly curling up at the ends. I am so happy to see you. Celestia stared right back at Nightmare Moon, her countenance as neutral as possible. I see. She looked at the twisted reflection of her younger sister up and down. This is impossible. She looked up to Luna. Most impossible. Nightmare Moon locked eyes with Luna, bared her fangs. It is impossible for this! Speak softly! Luna interrupted, thundering rumbling in the sky, her own eyes glowing for a moment. You are not on a balcony addressing frogs or ponies. You are right before us. You have no need to protect your voice. Her eyes narrowed to slits. You, a mockery of all I am. All my power of no restraint. No kindness or decency. She stopped as she felt Celestia's wing press against her back. I apologize, she said, teeth blessing. Celestia smiled at her younger sister before looking to Nightmare Moon. So, what are you? Nightmare Moon pursed her lips before speaking, her voice no longer a physical force. What are you? She shook her head. This is some sort of mental blank. Am I hallucinating in my final moments before death? She tossed her head back and looked, eyes wide into the bright blue sky. Groga! Are you playing with me? Celestia stepped forward. She stomped the ground, causing the ponies and dragon to jump a half foot in the air. Enough! She snarled, eyes narrowed. Who are you? What are you? And where did you come from? She looked aside to Twilight. Twilight, how does he appear? Nightmare Moon followed Celestia's gaze, and her entire body tensed, her mane standing nearly straight up in the air. She canted back, the tip of her horn flared. Beware, sister, she called out. That Tyrant Filly is now a mare with a cutie mark! The flare dimmed to nothing as he stared at an equally dumbstruck Twilight. What is going on? Rarity cleared her throat. Ahem. Pardon me for interrupting. She swallowed as the three alicorns all looked at her, but she squared her shoulders and held her head up high. What? It's the second time you said Tyrant Filly. She glanced up and pointed up at the sky. Now, you appeared in a flash of light in the sky, a corkscrew into the ground, looking like you had just come from one Piggy Pie's wilder parties. Nightmare Moon nodded to the unicorn. Correct. She looked at the two other alicorns. Tell me, Luna, 1,000 years ago, were you sealed to the moon by your sister and... Luna's wings flared out. Lightning crackled behind her as storm clouds swirled into being. Yes! I was sealed into the moon to stop my insane rampage of death and destruction! To stop eternal night from falling and the sun never rising again! Rainbow Dash crept forward and persisted herself in front of Fluttershy, attracted to a small ball. Get ready to fly, she whispered out of the corner of her mouth. If this gets ugly, I'll cover you. Twilight's horn suddenly brightened as she vanished, falling back into existence between Nightmare Moon, Luna, and Celestia. She held her forelegs up. Stop! She called out, looking around. This isn't getting us anywhere. She dropped back to all fours and cleared her throat before turning to face Nightmare Moon. Okay, as Rarity said, you crashed through some hole in the sky before landing. Now, I'm assuming the general details of what happened 1,000 years ago are the same, so I can skip the needless exposition about it. What happened immediately before you came here, and why do you refer to me as the Tyrant Filly? A low chuckle escaped her. Only Shining Armor could call me that. And right now, all I can see is Shining Armor lifting up a fussy, angry baby Twi as he's walking around calling her that. It's cute. Nightmare Moon narrowed her eyes as she focused on Twilight, but merely sighed. Very well. She closed her eyes, gathering her thoughts. I was set free by the stars, but when I descended, the sun was lurked permanently on the horizon. The land was, if not dying, then sick and cold. I went to Canterlot and found you on the throne of undying sun. Her eyes sprang open and brightened. Her hose stuck into the ground and her mane and tail wavered. Your own words, 7 years ago during an entrance exam. You stole Celestia's powers, sucking her dry of all but the smallest morsels of her magic. Now the land is cold, and you rule from a half-empty catalog, your own royal god leading me right to you. Silence filled the air as Twilight fell back onto her haunches, jaw slack. I stole Princess Celestia's powers? I stole them? Her head craned around to focus on Celestia as she stood there before turning back to Nightmare Moon, bounding to her host. But she's there! Whole and not sucked dry! And 7 years ago was when I took my entrance exam, but you were free from the move 3 years ago. So, how could you have been freed only today? Twilight screwed her eyes shut and groaned. Oh, I have a bad headache now. The Spike walked over and wrapped his arms around Twilight's neck in a hug. Daz looked Nightmare Moon over, rubbing her chin. She suddenly gasped and shot into the air. Wait! I know what's going on! She shouted. Everyone looked at her and chuckled. Twilight, don't you remember Daring Do in the Shattered Mirror, where she threw through the mirror of possibilities and landed up in that weird twisted Equestria where As's oil was good and Daring Do was evil? She waved her forelegs at Nightmare Moon. Well, why not something like that? If this was the story. Rarity rolled her eyes. Oh, please, Rainbow Dash. Do you really think something from your offensive stories can really apply to this situation? Twilight glanced at her fellow unicorn. Well, actually, alternate realities have been proved at least mathematically possible. In Scientific Equestrian, they ran an article last month on... So it is possible? Twilight blushed and nodded. She looked up at the sky. When you arrived, the sky seemed to stretch open, like a tear, before snapping back closed. She looked at Nightmare Moon. What happened? Nightmare Moon's own gaze followed to Twilight's. I met you at Catalot and fought you. But you had stolen too much of my sister's power, so I fled. You gave chase, and I sliced the sky open with my horn. The brightness from her eyes faded. I have no true idea what I was doing. I merely wished to escape from her, so here I am. She looked back down and met Luna's eyes. I do not know why I was released so long after you. Maybe the sky was broken? She chuckled bitterly. So your sister is alive, and mine is dying. At best, while the land dies with her. Or that. She kept her around and began trying off, wings unfurling. There was a blur to her left, and Dash suddenly appeared in front of her muzzle. Forelegs crossed as she hovered. And just where do you think you're going? She asked, scowling. Nightmare Moon shrugged. This is not my Equestria. Not the one where I was destined to rule. Her horn glowed. Now move aside, foe! I must return to... Celestia was suddenly there, to her left. Luna was to her right. And to do what? She asked, arching an eyebrow. You just said you lost before to this other Twilight. Celestia shut her eyes as she felt Twilight's gaze upon her. But she quickly looked back to the dark image of her sister. So what exactly can you accomplish by going back there, besides dying? Twilight trotted forward, the other ponies in Spike following. She made a wide turn and ending up in front of Nightmare Moon. And there are so many questions, she said, looking up at Nightmare Moon. How could some alternate version of myself beat you? She paused. There's something I never thought I'd hear myself say. Nightmare Moon looked at Luna on the right. I assume that you and Celestia are balanced on the sword's edge, each one as powerful as the other. At Luna's nod, she regarded Twilight. Even with the limited time here, I could feel your raw power. She bent her head down, staring deep into Twilight's bright eyes. In my Equestria, my sister and I are fully equal in power. It is why she needed the elements to imprison me. And while you are nowhere near as powerful as I am. Hey, you take that back! Spike shouted, shaking a fist. Twilight's the most powerful unicorn in Equestria! Twilight's cheeks reddened. Spike, do you mind? She let out a sigh. Nightmare Moon's right. I'm powerful, but compared to an helicorn? Her voice trailed off, the implication lingering in the air. Nightmare Moon's eyes closed. But the power of you and my sister combined. Ha 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 ha! Such raw power in such a fragile little vessel, Twilight Sparkle. She slowly shook her head and smiled. You were quite mad when I met you, in both senses of the word. Luna snorted. What? It's enough of that! She said, mane flowing. Nightmare Moon remained silent, but nodded. Celestia's eyes narrowed. So, now that you're here and going back over resulting your death, what happens now? She cantered around, looking up at candlelight in the distance. I wonder if Cadence look like a new baby sister. Yes, I would, she said, smirking. Nightmare Moon's mane flared and flattened in the still air. I do not know who this Cadence is, but regardless, I cannot stay. My throne is occupied by Filly, and while I will not rest until she is off and Equestria is restored. She tried forward, steering around Twilight and Spike, her wings unfurling once more as he faced Celestia and Luna. I have no other choice. Twilight spoke up. Maybe you need help. Her head dipped low as Celestia, Luna, and Nightmare loomed near her. She paused, but squared her shoulders and held her head high. Ponies can do amazing things when they work together. She looked around at all her friends. I've got first of experience in that. Applejack smiled and bowed her head. Well, thank you kindly, Sugarcube. Luna spoke up. If you truly are some alternate me, then I know that you doubt them. She shook her head. Don't. Twilight and her friends feed me for the taste of hatred and jealousy that still bites you, and I prefer to think that my eyes are wide open, Nightmare Moon said, sneering, her eyes blazing. She looked at Twilight before her gaze skittered her to the other elements. What of the rest of you? She looked at Dash. You seemed most eager for a fight. Dash snorted. I'm not in it for you, but this other Twilight sounds like she needs help, and I never abandon my friends. She flew over to Twilight and hovered right behind her. Can I help? Twilight nodded. Of course, Dash. It wouldn't be the same without you. Fluttershy hopped up and floated over to Dash. She swallowed as a fine sheen of sweat beaded on her forehead. I'm going too. For my friends, she finally squeaked out. Applejack tried over to Twilight, bobbed her head. Don't even think about leaving me behind, even though I got no idea to tell us where we're going, she said, shrugging. She went over to Rarity as she tried over. Afraid of getting your hopes dirty? She said with a wink and a grin. Rarity tossed her mane back. Oh, please, Applejack. I'm not so what precisely is going on, but I know Twilight needs us. It's what friends do. She looked over to Twilight. She needs help, so I'm giving her my help. Pinkie Pie suddenly bounced over in front of the group, finally stopping right below Dash and Fluttershy. The party won't be complete without the party pony. Twilight looked around at her friends, the other bearers of the elements. Thanks, every pony. I'm glad you're coming with me. Not even sure of what alternate dimension they're going into, facing off against threats that no one else could comprehend. Yeah, that's the meaning of Nakama, people. Glorious, glorious true friends. Grace felt a Spike on her right as he gasped. But you're staying here, Spike! Spike's lips curled in a frown. What? No way! He wiped a claw at Twilight. You're not going to some freaking alternate Equestria without your number one assistant! Twilight's eyes narrowed. You may be my number one assistant, but you're also just a baby. She looked away from Spike and blinked. If anything happened to you... She trailed off and her barrel heaved just before it looked back. Someone's got to hold down the library anyway. Spike snorted, sending out a small gout of green flame. He kicked the ground, digging turn furrows in the dirt. You'll be careful, right? He finally asked, reaching out and wrapping his arms around her neck. Twilight's eyes widened at the hug, but she nodded. I promise. He waited for Spike to break the embrace before glancing to Nightmare Moon. So, will you take our help? The dark alicorn did not respond, instead looking to the other two alicorns. They can help. Luna spread her wings out. They helped me, she stated, looking to Celestia. Why, sister, with your permission, I will accompany every pony back to this alternate Equestria. A small smile played across her muzzle. I feel that this Nightmare Moon may need my help. Celestia's eyes narrowed slightly, forcing her to clean her head. If you are sure. Nightmare Moon slowly turned her head as her gaze drifted from Celestia to Luna. What are you playing at? She stopped to the ground, causing the ground to shake beneath everyone. I will not be manipulated or coerced away from the throne! Luna walked up to her, eyes narrow and waving from her dark counterpart. I would think nothing of it. But perhaps you could deal with a different perspective on things. Besides, you'll need my power to assist you against this Tyrant Filly, by whom you were so easily overwhelmed. Nightmare Moon held Luna's gaze before whipping her head around, ethereal mane trailing behind. How long before we get to pot? Twilight rubbed her chin and looked around. 2 hours? I don't know as a confirmation. She looked to Celestia. The elements? Celestia nodded to her student. Easily done. After receiving acknowledgement from Twilight, she looked to Nightmare Moon. Please stay here, she said. Luna, could you please return to me with Caroline? Luna walked off by her sister's side. As my sister said, you shall remain here and wait for us. With that, she and Celestia spread her wings, leaping up into the air, flying off. Nightmare Moon snorted as the other ponies and Baby Dragon walked off. She looked around the field, quickly empty, leaving her alone. Where would I go?